Hello friends, multi-system inflammatory syndrome following COVID-19 in children is a potential nightmare for an intensivist. If you are a practicing pediatrician, then there are certain clues which you can refer the patient early, and you suspect that patient might go into that syndrome, which requires an intensive care unit to manage. So the two case series which are recently being published, one from United States where 186 patients from this potentially lethal disease were studied, and the second published from the United Kingdom where 78 patients of this particular syndrome was analyzed. So in this video we shall discuss what is the pathophysiology which is going on, what are the clinical features, or what investigations one should consider, or when to refer, and in brief about the management. So do have a look. If we discuss about the epidemiology of this particular syndrome, there are interesting facts we should know. Though the exact incidence of multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children is uncertain, but the Western studies show that 2 per lakh is what been reported from the 2 studies which you could gather it from. This particular syndrome, or the cases, were started being picking up from the mid-April in United Kingdom first, and then later on Canada, United States and other part of the world. In Asia it has been recently being reported. The epidemiology, or there are many features which resembles to that of to the complete or the incomplete Kawasaki disease, but it differs in 2 things: that the Kawasaki disease is more common in infant and young children, whereas this particular syndrome is common in adult children and adolescents who are healthy. As far as ethnicity is concerned, the Kawasaki disease is more common in Asian or Eastern hemisphere part the patient, whereas this particular syndrome was more common in black, and the disproportionate increased incidence was seen in black and Hispanic group of the children. Epidemiology of this particular syndrome also differs from the acute COVID-19 cases, which tend to occur in younger children and who have some comorbidity, or they are unhealthy, as compared to this syndrome we see in healthy children who are in the adolescent age group. So this is how it differs. Also, one interesting thing which was noticed is that the peak of this syndrome, like the incidence of this syndrome getting higher after few weeks of the lag, when there have been a peak of COVID-19 cases, and then after few weeks you could see the increase in the number of this patient. So we may expect to the stage where we are maybe into a stage where we might see increase in number of patients. So this was in brief about the epidemiology of this multi-inflammatory syndrome in children. Coming to pathophysiology of this particular syndrome, and there are many similarities to with a Kawasaki disease or a macrophage activation syndrome or cytokine release syndrome. So exact the phenomenon is not certain, but then basically it's an virus induced immune dysregulation is what mediates to these changes and the organ dysfunction later on. Also, many affected children they were found to be negative for when they checked for the PCR, but their serology was positive. Of the available case series which we to discuss, of the 364 patients, 58% had negative PCR, but they were positive for serology. Around 30% kids had both the tests were positive, and 11% where both the tests were negative. So this further tells that it's not the acute viral infection which is the reason behind the pathophysiology which is happening, but basically it's an immune dysregulation following the infection is what leading to the changes in the patients. Now let's discuss about the clinical features. This is very important to, when we as a pediatrician would suspect the patient going into this cascade of events leading to, morbidity and at times mortality. So let's discuss from these two case series with whatever the symptoms were there. As you can see in this slide that, in available case series, persistent fever with a median duration of 4 to 6 days was there in 100% in all the patients. Surprisingly, it was not the respiratory symptoms which were predominant. Basically, gastrointestinal symptoms, be it abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, which was there in 60 to 100% of patients. A rash similar to Kawasaki disease was seen in almost half to two-thirds of the patients. As you can see, conjunctivitis, mucous membrane involvement are also seen from 30 to 80% of the patient. Neurocognitive symptoms were seen in half of the patient, and as I said, respiratory symptoms were less compared to the other, mainly the GI symptoms. Sore throat, myalgia, swollen hands and feet, and lymphadenopathy were also seen. So these were the symptoms. Now if you can see in this slide the clinical findings or the sign. So common clinical findings reported in the case series were the presentation as a shock was seen in 32 to 75% of cases. Almost 22 to 65% kids met the criteria for Kawasaki disease. Myocardial dysfunction with the lab suggestive of elevated troponin or BNP was seen in 50 to 90% of the cases, though around 10% of the patient had arrhythmias also on examination. ARDS, acute respiratory failure requiring non-invasive or invasive ventilation, was seen in half to quarter of the patient. Acute kidney injury, serositis, hepatitis were also seen. Encephalopathy, seizure, coma and meningoencephalitis was seen in around 6 to 7% of the cases. So this is how they are presented to the hospital. Having discussed about the clinical features, symptoms and signs, the laboratory investigations were analyzed in that particular case series, and the results are as follows, as you can see in the slides below. In abnormal blood cell counts, in the CBC report, lymphocytopenia was seen in 80 to 95% of the kids, whereas neutrophilia was in 68 to 90%, mild anemia and thrombocytopenia around 30 to 80% of the patient had. Elevated inflammatory markers, be it CRP, ESR, they were seen in almost 75 to 100% of the cases. As you can see, D-dimer, fibrinogen, procalcitonin, interleukin 6 levels, these markers were elevated in almost more than 60% of the patients. Also, few patients had elevated cardiac markers, be it troponin or brain natriuretic peptide, in almost 75 to 90% of the patients. Apart from that, hypoalbuminemia, mild elevated liver enzymes, elevated LDH and hypertriglyceridemias were also seen in the number of cases. As far as imaging is concerned, echocardio findings were as depressed LV function and coronary artery abnormalities, be it dilatation or aneurysm, mitral valve regurgitation and pericardial effusions were also seen. Other imaging like chest radiograph, many patients had normal chest radiographs. Abnormal finding included small pleural effusions, patchy consolidation, etc. CT of the chest when obtained generally had findings similar to those on chest X-ray, and few patients had nodular ground glass opacification. Abdominal finding on abdominal ultrasound or CT include free fluid, ascites and bowel and mesenteric inflammation including terminal ileitis, mesenteric adenolymphadenitis and pericholecystic edema. So these were the clinical features, laboratory investigation and imaging findings in this group of patients. A differential diagnosis for this particular syndrome, there are many which needs to be differentiated, be it bacterial sepsis, Kawasaki disease itself, other viral illnesses, SLE, HLH, these are the diseases which also needs to be differentiated from this multi-system inflammatory syndrome. So once we have discussed about all these findings. Now coming to the management, we would not go into depth, but early referral to the intensive care unit, where infection control practices optimum has to be there. His patient should be transported, or they present many times with as we discussed in shock, needs of fluid, vasoactive agents, respiratory support are required, antimicrobial in form of antibiotics as well as antiviral based remdesivir are also required. There are other immunomodulating therapies also being studied and being given also. For example, if the presentation is like Kawasaki disease, the IVIG is what being given. Interleukin 6 inhibitor like tocilizumab, or interleukin 1 inhibitor like anakinra, or these all are being studied, but then the exact the evidence is yet to unfold at this point of time. And lastly, to discuss the outcome of this particular syndrome, though the outcome is uncertain at this point of time, where evidence and it's being analyzed, but because it do present like Kawasaki disease and toxic shock syndrome, so the many kids do survive, but then many fatalities also being reported at this point of time. So friends, this was in brief about multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. If you have any questions, or if you are new, consider subscribing to channel Thinkpedia. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video.